The winds howled mournfully across the embers of Colony 3, kicking up ash and smoke that whispered the horrors of that fateful day. Captain Ilara Winters stood on the edge of what had once been a bustling marketplace, her heart heavy with grief as she surveyed the destruction. The Zenthari raid had been swift and merciless, a reminder of the Empire's iron grip on humanity. Memories flooded her mind, laughter in the streets, the smell of fresh food, friendships forged in hope, now reduced to charred rubble. The cries of the innocent echoed in her ears, mingling with the whirring of Zenthari ships above, like ghosts tormenting her past. She could still hear the chaos, the frantic shouts of people, the crash of debris, and the hollow silence after the guns fell silent. Each sound was a dagger, piercing through her resolve. "No more," she whispered under her breath, feeling both anger and sorrow intertwined deep in her soul. As she walked through the wreckage, memories flickered in her mind, moments shared with her comrades, banter over meals, and the warmth of hope that had ignited her spirit. Now that warmth flickered like a candle in a storm, at risk of extinguishing altogether. Among those memories was Simon, her closest friend and a fellow soldier who had fallen during the chaos. His laughter still echoed in her mind, a sound now forever tainted by tragedy. Ilara clutched her fists tighter as she approached the ruins of the community center, their former rallying point. It was here they had once plotted strategies, rallied support, and dreamed of a brighter future. Now it was a hollow shell of ash and despair. Anger surged within her, more powerful than any weapon in her arsenal. Humanity was a flickering candle in a storm, and she was ready to become a fierce wind to fan the flames of rebellion. "Captain!" a voice broke through her thoughts, jarring her from her reverie. A young woman, Lena, rushed over, her expression a mix of urgency and fear. "We need to regroup. The others are planning tonight's strike." Ilara nodded, her determination hardening. This was not the end, it was only the beginning. "Let's move," she said firmly. Despite her emotional turmoil, the time for mourning would come later. Right now, her people needed her. As they entered the bunker, a somber atmosphere greeted them. The flickering lights cast shadows across the faces of the assembled rebels, each one marked by loss, yet filled with a spark of defiance. The diverse group of humanity had gathered here to transform their grief into action. A plan was in motion, and hope crackled in the air like static electricity. "Everyone," Ilara called, her voice rising above the murmurs. "We cannot let this happen again. I will not let anyone else die on my watch. Today we strike back." The room erupted in applause, voices merging into a symphony of resolve. Ilara felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins, an overwhelming sense of unity. Together, they would take a stand against their oppressors. Today, they would not just fight. Today, they would reclaim their lives. Among the murmurs of agreement echoing around the room, Ilara spotted an unusual figure hunched in a corner, a man with wild hair and wide eyes, immersed in a chaotic pile of ancient technological debris. Dr. Jace Kryn was a brilliant scientist known for his eccentricity, his reputation as much for his wild theories as for his groundbreaking discoveries. "Jace, what are you working on?" Ilara asked. Her curiosity piqued as she approached him. He looked up, excitement glowing in his eyes. "Ilara, if you want to turn the tide, we might just have a chance with the Heartstone." "The Heartstone?" Ilara raised an eyebrow, skeptical yet intrigued. "You mean the legend? It's just a myth." No, it's real," Jace insisted, pushing aside his clutter as he gestured wildly. "You see, ancient texts describe it as a relic capable of amplifying human abilities. Imagine if each of us could tap into that strength. We could rival the Zenthari." The notion was tantalizing. Ilara's heart raced at the prospect. Could this be their salvation? Could the Heartstone allow them to fight back? However, a part of her remained wary. "Where do we find it?" "Deep in the ruins of old Earth," Jace replied, his enthusiasm unabated. "I can lead the way. It's perilous, but it's our best shot." Ilara felt a flicker of hope ignite. Maybe, just maybe, this was the spark they needed to extinguish the Empire's grip. "Gather the crew," she ordered, a newfound determination in her stride. "We're heading to Earth." As Lena and the others hustled to gather supplies, Ilara wrestled with her emotions. The fear of failure gnawed at her, as did the thought of leading the group into potential danger. Nevertheless, watching her comrades rally around her filled her with courage. "Everyone, listen up," Elara said as the crew assembled. "We're about to embark on a journey that could change our fate. Are you ready to fight?" Murmurs of agreement spread through the group, faces lighting up with determination. The freedom of humanity hung in the balance, and this was their chance. "We're in," Lena affirmed, her eyes full of steadfast resolve. With a final glance at Colony 3, Elara steeled herself for the mission ahead. She could feel the weight of responsibility upon her shoulders, but fear transformed into a blinding conviction. She had lost too much to turn back now. "Let's move," she commanded, and as they stepped forward, the promise of freedom felt palpable in the air. The journey to Earth was fraught with danger. Elara led her assembled crew through rugged terrains and starlit night skies, their hearts pounding in synchronicity as they traversed the hostile zones between colonies. Each step was heavy with the memories of what they had lost, but the weight of the Heartstone and their collective resolve spurred them onward. They arrived at the crumbling remains of old Earth, the air thick with an eerie silence. Towering buildings lay in decay, a testament to an age long past. "Stay alert," Elara instructed, her gaze sweeping across the skeletal remains of human civilization. The ghostly echoes of traffic and laughter seemed haunting in the quiet. Among the ruins, they encountered remnants of technology long forgotten, parts of machines that once ruled their world. Jace eagerly inspected the fragments, his mind racing with possibilities. "Imagine what we could learn from this," he mused, piecing together scraps of history. "Focus, Jace," Elara reminded him. "We need to find the Heartstone and get back before the Zenthari spot us." As they navigated through the remnants, Elara pressed on, her mind racing with thoughts of their mission. Every step felt like a step into a dark abyss, the fear of the unknown clawing at her insides. But she could not allow her doubts to manifest. The crew was counting on her. They stumbled upon a hidden chamber, its entrance obscured by vines and debris. "This must be it," Jace exclaimed, his voice tinged with excitement as he led the way into the darkness. The chamber was filled with ancient devices and relics. At its center lay elaborate technology, intricately carved with what appeared to be runes. "This could be the Heartstone's altar," Jace said, eyes wide as they scanned the elaborate inscriptions. Elara felt her heart race in anticipation. As they navigated deeper, however, a sudden noise erupted from the entrance. The sound of Zenthari boots echoed ominously, sending strands of fear racing through Elara's spine. "We've got company," she hissed, urgency saturating her voice. The Zenthari patrols had found them. "Everyone fall back," Elara commanded as the crew quickly took defensive positions. Lena hacked into the old communication systems, creating a psychic barrier. The Zenthari guards burst into the chamber, their eyes wide with menace. "We fight!" Elara shouted, rallying her crew. She could feel her heart pounding against her ribcage as she faced the enemy. Grabbing a makeshift weapon, she surged forward, ready to defend her comrades. The battle erupted, frantic and chaotic. Lena and Marok worked in tandem, using their training to protect their teammates, while Jace scrambled to reach the Heartstone. Elara's instincts kicked in, guiding her each step of the way as she weaved through Zenthari soldiers. "Cover me!" she shouted to her crew, determination shining in her eyes. Each strike was fueled by the memories of her fallen friends, and as she fought, she realized that with every move she made, she was igniting a flicker of resistance in her comrades' hearts. This was not just about survival. It was a fight for their right to live freely. Finally, with one last surge of adrenaline, Elara managed to leap over a fallen debris piece, coming face to face with the Zenthari commander. "You think your pathetic rebellion has a chance?" he sneered, raising his weapon. Elara's breath caught in her throat, but she refused to show fear. "We are not afraid," she declared, rallying her last reserves of strength. "We will fight for our freedom." The skirmish continued, but victory felt near. After their narrow escape, the crew returned to their temporary base, adrenaline still coursing through their veins. Elara paced the command room, her heart pounding as she processed the chaos they had just endured. The fight with the Zenthari was a wake-up call. They were battling not just for survival, but for a chance at retaliation. "Did we get the Heartstone?" Alara asked urgently, glancing at Jace. He nodded, cradling a glowing object in his hands. "It's more powerful than I ever imagined," he breathed, awe evident in his tone. "Then we have our chance," Alara declared, her voice steady. "With this, we can amplify our abilities. We can make a real stand against the Zenthari." The crew gathered around, faces illuminated by a mix of excitement and fear as they contemplated the realities of their upcoming mission. As they strategized, Alara felt a sense of urgency welling inside her. They couldn't afford to waste time. The Zenthari were relentless, and momentum often slipped through the fingers of their kind. That night, Alara gathered her crew around the flickering campfire, the crackling flames reflecting in their eyes. "Listen," she began, her voice firm yet inviting. "Tonight marks a new beginning. We strike back before the Zenthari gains any more ground." Nods of agreement circled the group as the fire danced, mirroring the pulse of their hearts. "We've learned from today, and we charge onward. No more running. This time we fight back." Alara could feel the shifting energy among her comrades, a collective resolve unfurling before her. Each member understood the risks. They had tasted defeat, and now they hungered for victory. They outlined their plan meticulously, targeting a nearby Zenthari supply depot known for its vital supplies. "If we destroy their resources, we create chaos," Lena suggested, energized. "Good thinking," Alara replied. "This will draw them out, and we have the element of surprise on our side." The crew prepared through the night, each member readying their weapons and packing supplies while keeping their resolve shining brightly. They were warriors now, bound by the scars of their past, yet infused with newfound purpose. As dawn broke over the horizon, illuminating the remnants of their broken world, Alara felt a pulse of determination stir within her. Today, they would paint the canvas of their lives with defiance. There was no turning back now. As the sun set over the smoldering remains of Colony 3, Ilara's heart raced in tune with a sense of urgency that hung heavy in the air. They had launched their raid, striking the Zenthari supply depot with ferocity and precision. It was a hard-fought battle, filled with chaos and bloodshed, but they had succeeded. They had dealt a blow to their oppressors. But as they regrouped at their hideout, weariness crashed over them like a tidal wave. Alara glanced at the fatigued faces of her crew, each one marked by the struggles they had faced. The thrill of victory was overshadowed by the toll it had taken, especially after losing Marak during the fight. His absence loomed like a shadow over their small gathering. "We did well," Jace said, attempting to lighten the mood. Yet, Alara saw the deep sorrow reflected in the eyes of her team. Even amidst their triumph, the knowledge of loss lay heavy. "We've shown those bastards we can strike back." Yet Alara knew the truth. They would have to face the Zenthari again. The losses they suffered would not deter them, but neither could they forget. "We must stay vigilant. This was just the first victory," she urged, her voice steady, yet filled with sadness that resonated through the room. "We honor Marak by continuing this fight." Communications were primed, and information began to pour in from other rebel factions awakened by their rhetoric. Despite the triumph, the reality was harsh. A storm was coming. As days passed, while the crew struggled with the loss of their friend, Alara noticed an odd change in her own heart. In the quiet moments, guilt gnawed at her, festering like a wound. She was responsible for every life in her crew, and the weight of that responsibility bore down on her more than any sword ever could. One evening, as they gathered to plan their next strike, Lena spoke up hesitantly, breaking the tense silence. "I'm scared, Alara. What if we lose anyone else? What if we lose you?" Her vulnerability struck a chord within Alara. "I won't let that happen," she assured her. "We have to trust each other. Together we grew stronger and will continue to grow." "But what if we fail?" Lena pressed. "Falling is part of rising," Alara replied, her voice steadying. "We've come too far to turn back now." They could leap together. They would either rise or fall united. With Soren's insights into Zenthari tactics, they began strategizing their next move, preparing to dismantle a critical command center that served as their enemy's nerve center. Alara allowed herself to delve deep into the plans, focusing on strategy and letting the fear of loss fuel her resolve. In the quiet moments, away from the rest of the crew, Ilara contemplated her own transformation. She had begun as a lost soldier, consumed by grief and fear, but she was evolving into a formidable leader. The bonds they formed were the lifeline that sustained them. Her perspective had shifted. They were no longer simply fighting for themselves, but for all of humanity forged together in a single, luminous goal. With their sights firm on the Zenthari Command Center, the crew set out for a mission that felt charged with adrenaline. The ancient ruins that housed the sprawling base lay deep within Zenthari territory, an ominous fortress pulsating with energy. Ilara could feel her instincts sharpening, each step forward a tether to the past and present coalescing. "Everyone ready?" she asked, her heart pounding. The crew stood poised and vigilant beside her. "Let's make our impact," Lena replied, her face set with determination. The Zenthari base loomed ahead, a fortress of steel and shadows. Ilara's mind raced with plans. They would infiltrate the stronghold under cover of night. As they approached, she could hear the hum of machines, the echoes of Zenthari footfalls. The fear that had once consumed her now felt invigorating. She would fight for every ounce of humanity left within them. The mission to infiltrate the command center began smoothly, Lena deftly disabling the cameras as Ilara led the way. They carefully navigated through the darkened corridors, shadows embracing them as they moved like ghosts around the Zenthari guards. "Keep it quiet," Ilara reminded them, her voice low. They pressed deeper into the belly of the beast, adrenaline coursing through their veins. For a moment she focused on their goal. She envisioned liberating humanity from oppression, images of freedom washing over her. There lay an electric excitement within her. They were no longer helpless souls. They were warriors, and they would reclaim their lives, together. But then it happened. Alarms blared angrily, flashing red lights strobing through the narrow halls as feet thundered in their direction. "Quick, fall back!" Ilara exclaimed, heart pounding. The crew scrambled, firing their weapons and weaving through chaos as they evaded the oncoming Zenthari forces. Ilara surged through the hallways, her heart racing, filled with a sense akin to flight. The Zenthari hadn't expected a human rebellion. Underestimating them had been their downfall. As they fought their way through, Ilara felt the Heartstone's power surge within her, amplifying her senses into overdrive. She became a whirlwind, moving gracefully as she dodged blaster fire, her resolve hardening with every step. Each strike against a Zenthari soldier was more than just a battle. It was a statement that echoed throughout the cosmos. "Cover me while I disable the security systems," Lena shouted, quickly moving to a console. Ilara turned, ensuring the area was clear as the blaster fire erupted around them. "We move together," Ilara called out, ensuring every member was in sync. "Stay by my side." Marok's absence weighed heavily on them. Each loss felt like a stone in their hearts. They fought not just against their mortal enemies, but also to honor those who had fallen. Jace's voice pierced through the din. "Ilara, I've located the mainframe. Once I access it, we'll have control over their communications." "Let's go," she shouted, bulldozing her way through. They had surmounted far too much to falter now. Finally, they reached the nerve center. Blasting doors sealed shut before them, the flickering lights above casting shadows across their determined faces. Ilara took a breath, steadying herself for the final push. "On my signal. Ready?" With heart racing, they charged, taking decisive action against the door and surprising the Zenthari within. The chaos unfolded, a haze of limbs, weapons, and voices intermingling as they surged forward into the fray. Despite the frantic energy of the battle, a strange calm enveloped Ilara. In that moment, she understood that they were not mere rebels. They were warriors fighting for their very souls. With the chaos behind them and the heart of the command center in view, Ilara felt the weight of the Heartstone pressing against her chest, a reminder of their purpose. The energy within it thrummed, mirroring the adrenaline thundering through her veins. "Get ready," Jay shouted, his fingers flying over the console as he initiated a lock on the Zenthari's communication systems. "Once we seize control, we'll be able to disrupt their entire network of command." Ilara's gaze rested on the Zenthari troops filtering in around the corners. their silhouettes casting menacing shadows against the walls of the command center. "Lena, cover him!" she ordered as she moved into a defensive stance. Lena nodded, her fingers deftly navigating the blaster's control panel as she aimed at the advancing troops. "I'll hold them off as long as I can." With each fa of blaster fire targeting the oncoming wave, Ilara felt time stretch. The heartstone pulsated against her chest, a silent promise of power. She felt it resonate with her own energy, infusing her being with strength and clarity as she braced herself for what lay ahead. "Done!" Jace exclaimed, and at that moment, they felt the surge of power reverberate throughout the command center. "We have control of their communication. Now we can—" But before he could finish, Zenthari soldiers stormed into the room, more than they'd anticipated. Ilara's pulse quickened. They were outnumbered. "Now what?" Lena yelled as she fired back, her shots whizzing through the air. "We can't hold them off forever." Ilara locked eyes with Jace, a plan forming in her mind. "We make our stand. Gather around the Heartstone. If we channel its energy together, we'll amplify our abilities." As they huddled around the pulsating relic, Ilara felt the unity among her comrades. "Listen carefully, everyone. Focus your energy together and channel it into the Heartstone," she commanded, a flicker of inspiration igniting within her. "We will harness this moment into one powerful force." They did as instructed, channeling their feelings into the Heartstone, their hope, their fury, their losses. Ilara closed her eyes, breathing deeply as she felt the power rise within. Intensity surged through her veins, and as they connected to the Heartstone, its energy coursed into each of them. They could feel it knitting them together, amplifying their own latent abilities into something extraordinary. Their senses expanded, blaster shots slowed, as Ilara now perceived every movement, every rhythm of the fight. In flawless unison, they moved as a cohesive unit, weaving through the waves of Zenthari soldiers while retaining their battlefield awareness. When a Zenthari soldier charged Ilara, she sidestepped effortlessly, rising to redirect their weight, flipping them onto the floor. Ilara's power surged, drawing strength from her comrades. "We can do this! Push through!" she cried, and a cheer erupted among her crew. Suddenly, they struck an unexpected chord, unleashing a wave of energy that rippled across the command center. They fought back with newfound ferocity, bolstered by the Heartstone's power. Each movement became fluid and powerful. Their kinship grew stronger with every moment. With renewed conviction, Ilara pressed onward. "We won't falter," she shouted, charging through with focus. Blasters sparked as the Heartstone's energy coursed through them, dispelling the darkness of the Zenthari altogether. Their victory became tangible, laughter and shouts rising against the backdrop of chaos as they triumphed over their enemies. In the aftermath of the battle, while the air still buzzed with the electric energy of their victory, a figure emerged from the shadows. Soren, a former Zenthari soldier seeking asylum. His appearance was disheveled, eyes wide as he cautiously approached Ilara. "Why should we trust you?" Ilara questioned warily, pointing her blaster at him. Memories of conflict and loss flooded her mind as she wrestled with her emotions. "I'm not here to fight," he replied hastily, raising his hands in surrender. "I want to help. I know the Zenthari strategies, their weaknesses. I can help you unravel their plans." The crew exchanged glances, suspicion evident among the ranks. Ilara's instincts wrestled with hope. Could she allow this former enemy into their midst? "What do you want?" Ilara pressed, seeking the truth behind his intentions. "I've seen too much," Soren said, his voice low and sincere. "The Zenthari do not value life. I want to help end their tyranny." "Your offer could be a trap," Lena cautioned, ever the vigilant protector of the crew. "We have enough enemies," Jace added, narrowing his gaze. But Soren stood steadfast, a flicker of desperation in his eyes. "I risked my life to get here. I know how they think. I can help you strike where it hurts." Ilara studied him, her thoughts tangled. This was a turning point, a chance to access knowledge they desperately needed. "All right," she decided, lowering her weapon reluctantly. "You can stay, but you must prove your loyalty. You will fight with us." Soren nodded, relief washing over him. "I will do everything I can to help." As days turned into weeks, Soren slowly integrated into the crew. He began sharing tactical insights, warning them of potential Zenthari traps and giving them valuable strategic information to bolster their strikes. Yet, the tension remained. Though he had aligned himself with their cause, scars of the past took longer to heal. During a training session, Soren fell into step beside Alara. "You're carrying the weight of many," he noted, watching her movements keenly. "It's a burden. You don't have to do it alone." "It's my duty," she replied, avoiding eye contact. "I owe it to my people." "Duty does not mean you must shoulder it all alone," Soren pressed gently, sensing her turmoil. "I can help. Let me in." His words struck a deep chord. Alara, rigid in her fears, was reminded of the loneliness that festered in her heart. "I've lost too much," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't afford to lose anyone else." "You're not going to lose anyone else," Soren assured her, his tone firm and genuine. "Trust in your crew. They're with you through this journey." Reflecting on his words sparked a flicker of hope within Alara. She began to allow herself to lean on her comrades, the vulnerability becoming a pillar of strength rather than weakness. In the ensuing weeks, the crew bonded, building deeper foundations of camaraderie and resilience as they strategized for their next mission. Soren's knowledge transformed their approach. With his insights, they could strike with surgical precision at the heart of Zenthari operations. As Soren's influence began shaping their battles, Alara felt a renewed rhythm in their strategy sessions. They gathered in the dimly lit command room, deep in thought about their next move, an assault on a critical Zenthari communication hub. "It's time we dismantle their command structure entirely," Alara declared, her voice steady. "If we can disrupt their communications, we can suss out weaknesses within their ranks." Lena nodded, her fingers dancing over the holographic display as she projected maps of the area. "We'll create chaos, draw them out, and utilize the element of surprise." Alara leaned over the table, examining the schematics. "With what we've amassed, our chances for this operation are higher than ever." "Can we get in and out without alerting them?" Jace asked, his brow furrowed in thought. "We'll need precise timing," Soren interjected, his tone collected and strategic. "I know their shifts. If we strike during the 2-hour window when their forces are at their lowest, we can infiltrate. Disabling their primary hubs would throw everything into disarray." Alara felt a sense of confidence rising within. "Let's plan it out meticulously. Communication is our most lethal weapon. We have to capture it." As they formulated the plan, the air buzzed with excitement. This was the first step in building a cohesive strategy. The team rallied, each taking on roles suited to their strengths. Every strike on their enemies was layered with purpose, each member embraced by the spirit of unity and resilience. Days slipped by as they prepared for battle, the crew grappling with their fears while honing their skills. Alara focused on the Heartstone's power, encouraging her team to draw strength from it. Her leadership transformed, inching from a nervous soldier to a pillar of strength that thrummed with resolve. On the eve of their operation, while the stars twinkled across an endless cosmos, Alara gathered her crew once more. The room thrummed with energy, each individual sensing the power of what lay ahead. "We are more than soldiers," she said, rousing them with fervor. "We are warriors, together. The Zenthari have forgotten us, marginalized us. Today we erase that narrative. This is for our freedom, for those we lost, and for humanity." Cheers erupted around her, and a sense of camaraderie bound them, an invisible thread woven through their determination to reclaim their identities. "We fight for our future," Lena shouted, her voice rising above the others. At dawn, the crew huddled in the corner of their hideout, excitement lacing their movements. Taking a deep breath, Alara gathered them before stepping into the shadows of Zenthari territory. Armed with strategies and the strength of their shared struggles, they crossed the threshold into the unknown. As they approached the communication hub, the empty stillness of the base consumed them. Alara felt her heart pound in rhythm with the universe as they edged closer. "Remember, stay focused. This is a stealth operation," she cautioned. And the crew nodded in unison. They slinked through passageways, advancing toward their target. Suddenly, alarms blared overhead, shattering the silence like glass shattering in the wind. "They're onto us," Alara shouted. "Position yourselves. Don't falter." The Zenthari soldiers surged forward, clashing against her crew in a frenzied storm of chaos. Blaster fire lit the air, and adrenaline surged through Ilara's veins as she fought alongside her team, determination etched in every movement. Ilara ducked behind cover just as a volley of shots flew past her. She swung her weapon, the heartstone glowing against the echoes of battle. It thrummed alongside her heartbeat, each pulse infusing her with fierce strength. "Jace, Lena, get to the control room," she called, adrenaline fueling her voice. "We've got to disable their communication systems." "On it!" Lena shouted as they moved like a well-coordinated unit. Ilara charged forward, driving through waves of enemies as they fought to secure their objectives. The battle raged on, every inch hard-fought and secured with the weight of their resolve. It felt like chaos, and yet like music. Each heartbeat a rhythm that bound them together, each move calculated and harmonized toward a single purpose. With blasters firing and retreating forces at their heels, they pressed on, adrenaline surging through their bodies as they finally reached the control room. Jace immediately moved to the console, fingers dancing over the holographic display. As the crew fought off incoming Zenthari soldiers, Ilara breathlessly urged Jace, "Hurry! We need that communication disabled." "I'm working on it," Jace shouted, sweat plastering his hair to his forehead as he navigated through the confusing tech. "I'll lock down their systems. Just hold them off a little longer." With every second that passed, Ilara felt the pressure to succeed mount. Memories of Marak and Simon surged to the forefront of her mind, fueling her resolve. "We are not giving up," she shouted to her crew, rallying them through the harrowing chaos. "Together, we will show them that they can't erase us." Ilara fought with a fire burning brightly in her soul, pushing forward as she faced the Zenthari commander with full ferocity. They stood poised in the middle of the room, a dance of chaos and defiance unfolding amidst them. "You think you can defeat us?" the commander snarled, clearly frustrated. "Together we will," Ilara declared, vigor coursing through her as she met his gaze. After a hard-fought battle filled with intense back-and-forth exchanges, determination and spirit surged, allowing her to break through his defenses with a final strike. As he fell, the tides turned within the command room, and the crew rallied against the encroaching darkness. With the Zenthari commander defeated and their systems dismantled, Ilara felt the rush of victory washing over them like a cleansing wave. This had been a fight not only for survival, but for dignity and the reclamation of their humanity. Ilara and her crew had won the battle, but the war was far from finished. As they emerged from the command center, the Zenthari's chaotic response reverberated, echoing through the expanse of the galaxy. Each step forward felt like a monumental shift, a seismic ripple that marked the beginning of a new era. Back at their base, the crew gathered, the atmosphere filled with exhilaration and anticipation, as news of their victory spread like wildfire. Each member's heart brimmed with pride and hope, mingled with the shadows of grief that inevitably haunted the corners of their minds. "I can't believe we did it," Lena exclaimed, her eyes glistening with tears of joy. "We turned the tide against them. We've only just begun," Ilara replied, her voice steady yet filled with resilience. "This victory is merely the first step. The Zenthari will retaliate. We must stay vigilant." As they discussed their next steps in their struggle for freedom, a flicker of excitement ignited among them, the first ember of hope kindling into a raging fire. They began to strategize ways to harness their victory, aligning with other rebel factions that had risen in response. Ilara felt a newfound strength within her as she urged others to unite in their shared cause, reinforcing that their individual battles could culminate into a unified revolution. With their victory echoing across the stars, rebel factions began to rally, their struggles intertwining as communities rose in solidarity against their oppressors. In her heart, Ilara felt the flame of humanity rekindle. "Together we are stronger," she beseeched, referencing their collective effort to rise against the Zenthari's endless terror. As speeches erupted across the committees and gatherings, she recognized that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, battles, and losses. But she felt a part of something larger now, a universe that would rise alongside her. Amid the flickering lights and shadows, Ilara stood on the edge of their base, gazing out at the horizon where light met darkness. The weight of their victory rested heavy on her shoulders, yet in it lay the promise of a brighter future. She smiled, tempered by the recognition of the battles yet to come. "Captain," Lena called, approaching her with admiration. "Do you really think we can win this war?" "Yes," Alara replied firmly, turning her gaze toward the stars above. "We've proven to ourselves that hope exists even in the darkest of times. We've risen from despair, and together we will fight for our place in this universe, no matter the cost." Her heart surged at the knowledge they had created something greater than themselves. The loss of friends still stung like a fresh wound, but the scars told stories of resilience. They were the rebirths of a fierce revolution that prepared to create ripples across the galaxy. They honored the fallen and recognized the sacrifices that had been made. Each life lost reminded them of the importance of their cause, to fight against tyranny, to defend the voiceless, and to reclaim the future that had been stolen from them. As they prepared for what lay ahead, Ilara felt the collective strength of her crew. They weren't merely a band of rebels. They were a symphony of voices allowing the chords of defiance to echo throughout the universe. "Let's get to work," she commanded resolutely. They would scatter across the stars, igniting the flame of rebellion anew. For every colony oppressed, there would be a movement forward, their individual stories intertwined into a legacy of strength and unity. And so, as dawn spread its golden light across the remnants of their shattered lives, Alara led her crew onward, ready to reclaim the very essence of humanity. They were no longer castaways. They were rebels, warriors, fighters, what the cosmos needed in a time of darkness. Together, they would rise, hand in hand, from the ashes toward a brighter horizon, where new stories would be written, and the flames of freedom would blaze.